Today on the news and why it matters, we are back on air here to talk about the stories that we missed while we were gone over the break. We've got the shooting at a Texas church, an attack on the embassy in Iraq, and 2020 update, impeachment update, and more. Don't miss it. It starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez. It feels like a Monday, but it's not. It's Thursday. We're almost done with the week, but we are back here on air. I am joined today by Pat Gray of Pat Gray Unleashed, who I'm sure is really excited to talk more.
I can't wait.
Because the 5 hours that you've been talking.
Enough. It's just not enough.
Yeah, you got to do more. Joined once again by my good friend, Patriot Rich Wilkins, a Turning Point ambassador, and obviously the most patriotic man on the planet, quite possibly.
Yeah, you know, I just wear my heart on my sleeve.
And then we've got Luke Macias, political consultant Luke Macias. Thank you guys for being here. Before we get into the conversation, we want to thank our sponsor, NetSuite. So those of you who are small business owners, entrepreneurs, you know the importance of knowing your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, you don't know your business, you're not going to know how to grow it. It's just a complete mess. And the problem that most companies have is that they have all these different software systems that don't work with one another. So you've got your accounting system, and then you've got your sales system, and you've got your HR system, and you're like trying to make all of these things mix and match, and they don't work well together. That is what NetSuite is for. NetSuite is by Oracle, and it is the #1 cloud business system in the world. It is that for a reason, because it works. It has all of your software systems, everything that operates all under the same umbrella. And so you know your numbers, you can grow your business, you look at everything straight at your fingertips. And again, it's based on the cloud. So you can access it wherever you're at. If you're away from the office, if you're in the office, wherever you're at, you can access your software. So you can go to, let's see, netsuite.com/why. You can get a free demo. So free demo, also a free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. netsuite.com/why. I mean, unless you don't like making money, in which case, I don't know why you're here. netsuite.com/why. Schedule a free demo right now and get that free guide, 7 key strategies to grow your profits. All right, so let's start with this, the shooting that happened at the Texas church. It was actually not too far from here in White Settlement. There was, of course, a shooting. A man came in. I believe that we have the video, so if there is anyone with little ones in the room, may want to avoid that. But so we've got a video that we're going to play here in a second, and it shows the man walking into the church and starting to fire the armed security team, namely Jack Wilson, who was the head of the security team in that church, takes him down very quickly. He is only able to injure a couple people. Here's the video. So as you can see him coming towards the corner here, up at the
Way
top.
in the back.
Yeah, up at the top with a coat on.
He actually said something to one of the victims first.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Do you know what that was?
And he shot him. And the third shot you hear, which happened very quickly, is from the security guy.
Right. From, what was it, 50 feet away?
Yeah. Put him down instantly.
Yeah.
Killed him.
Amazing. He actually, I read as a retired police officer as well, so knows his stuff.
Yeah.
But if you notice, there were several other people members of the church who actually got up because they were armed as well. Now, I want to talk about it, but I also want to bring into the conversation the USA Today article that was just printed. There was an op-ed that they published that said it was terrifying that Texas churchgoers were armed when they were attacked.
Wow.
Good gosh.
I don't know how you come to that conclusion. I mean, what do you do in this situation? Wait for the cops? How many more people would have been killed?
They're what, 5 minutes away at least?
Right.
Maybe 10?
Right.
You could have killed everybody in that church in
absolutely.
that amount of time.
Absolutely.
It's a huge blessing that somebody was armed in that church. It ended in 6 seconds.
Could have been much worse.
6 seconds.
Yeah.
He could have shot virtually everybody.
Yeah.
Not to mention the fact that this guy was a felon.
Yeah.
And he got a hold of a gun.
Yep.
Shouldn't have had a gun in the first place.
Yeah.
It's illegal. You're a felon. And so he's in there. He it's really, this whole situation is stupid for the left to even try to argue it. More gun laws isn't going to prevent shootings from happening.
Right.
And thankfully, this hero, I like to actually say a statement he said, I don't see myself as a hero. I see myself as doing what needed to be done to take out an evil threat. And I love that. You know, it speaks to who this person is and what he did. It's just, you know, it's a tragic event, but so thankful he was there.
Yeah. What's your take, Luke?
He killed 2 people. I mean, killed both of them in 6 seconds, right? And it was ended.
Right.
And the liberal media is still so anti-gun that the issue they're going to take is not with Jack Wilson. It's not with it's well, we do have a problem, the fact that there were 10 other people that showed up with guns following the shooting. And, you know, the level at which they have to bend over backwards to advance their own agenda is pretty astounding. Their issue is we want a Jack Wilson in every single church. We want nobody else armed.
Right.
And we think that's the best situation. And we also want to make it harder for law-abiding citizens to get guns by closing private party purchases and red flag laws and all these other things, so that supposedly none of these things will happen. But evil will still exist, and I think that's what Jack Wilson brought up.
Right.
Jack Wilson, too, is running for county commissioner in Hood County. The political consultant inside of me has to leap for joy for him.
I know. I saw that. I was like, you can't come up with a better campaign ad than that, right? I'm the guy who saved the church. That's a shoo-in right there.
Yeah. Greg Abbott said, this is what a Texas hero looks like. And I was like, that's going to be on a mailer. That's going to be...
And how he responded. I mean, it's
phenomenal.
It's poetic.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
But so this op-ed writer, it's Arizona Republic blogger Elvia Diaz. She said that it was the part that was terrifying the most was that nothing was known about the other people who had the firearms. I mean, except for the fact that they were jumping to save members of their congregation. Right. Other than that, nothing was known about them. But, you know, Pat, it does bring up kind of an interesting point. I think, Luke, you just touched on this, that how in the world do you advocate for more gun control right after something like this? I mean, do you think that that is good for the Democrats' optics?
Well, their base doesn't.
They don't care.
I don't think they think through this logic.
Yeah.
And there's no logic involved in this argument, because the logic showed how effective it is.
Right.
And how it saved lives. You know, my church just asked for people not to carry guns in any of our meetings.
Really?
And it really made me feel less secure. I thought, wow, so we're completely at the mercy of some psychotic killer if some psychotic killer decides to come into our chapel someday and start shooting. Well, who's going to put him down?
Yeah.
Well, you're going to have to call the police. And that's, 5, 10, 15 minutes, who knows? It's unsettling.
That's disappointing in Texas.
It is.
Of all, I mean, because I would have thought this guy knew what he was up against when he goes into a church in Texas, right? I mean, my parents, they're in a small town in East Texas, and you know when you walk in there, I mean, they've got security, they've got armed people there. You know better than to go in there and mess with them. So that's really disappointing to hear happening in Texas.
And how often have the armed security personnel gone off and shot people or shot people accidentally? I don't know of a single time when it's ever happened.
Yeah.
So clearly, this is a huge benefit. And I think that's why we're not hearing all kinds of talk about it, because it's pretty hard to argue against this one.
Yeah. Well, Joe Biden tried to. He blamed Greg Abbott for the law to allow guns in churches. It's truly mind-boggling. So up next, the Department of Defense announced Tuesday night that they are sending an additional 750 troops to the Middle East in response to the attack on the United States Embassy in Iraq, and that another 3,000 troops were preparing for possible deployment in coming days. Now, it's still going back and forth. There were Iranian-backed protesters who were throwing Molotov cocktails and other objects at the embassy. No United States personnel were killed or seriously injured during the attack, but that did not stop MSNBC host Joy Reid from making a smart comment on Twitter. She, of course, was retweeting real press secretary bot, so it's just a bot. And it says, read the transcripts from the president. And she retweets it with, as Trump's Benghazi unfolds in Iraq. Getting a lot of heat for that, of course. As I just stated, no one died, no one was injured. Much different situation than Benghazi. And by the way, at what difference does it make at this point, right? What difference does it make at this particular point? Pat, your thoughts on what's going on in the embassy in Iraq?
Well, it just shows the difference between the presidents that we've had in the last 8 years. Obama did nothing, and Trump did something. And he's sending more troops to do, even reinforce the security that we have there now. When you take action, it's going to make a difference because that's what these people in the Middle East who do these kinds of things, that's what they understand. When you respond in strength, it's going to make a difference. That's why there's no hostages. That's why there was nobody killed. That's why there's nobody injured. That's why the crowd isn't there anymore. They know that Trump responded to this in strength, and it really works. It's like the gun in church. If you're strong and you take action, you're going to save lives.
Thankfully, this embassy was very fortified. I think the frustrating thing to take from this, beyond what the critics are saying, is the fact that the waves of people were able to get through certain checkpoints so easily. I think that's one thing that we need to work on over there. But I know John Teagan personally, who's one of the survivors of the Benghazi incident. And the fact that she even made that tweet, to me, it's a good thing because it's only allowing the comparison to happen.
Yeah.
And if you look at the way Benghazi was handled and the aftermath of that compared to now, you just see it's like, okay, well, Trump's responding to this properly. He's coming in with an iron fist, and yeah.
That's true. I mean, that's a good point that it does allow us to draw the comparison. Not smart on her part though, because we can draw the comparison and how much, how different it is.
Should be looking back to see what she said about Benghazi.
Yeah.
Back when Benghazi really was Benghazi.
Right.
I'm guessing she didn't have anything to say about that.
Crickets.
USA Today and Joy Reid, I think, can't help but fulfill Trump's prophecy of calling them the enemy of the people. And I feel like, they complain about his statement, but then they just keep feeding the narrative themselves. It's like, look, Trump made one statement and he really never needed to say it again because they every single week remind all of middle America that they are so far off. And I also think we're about to see potential duplicity from some of these national security hawks who were so outraged by Trump's pulling back in Syria. I don't see all of them also lining up saying, hey, thank you for sending the troops to that. And some of them have, but I think we're going to see some people who are just willing to criticize whatever the president's doing instead of actually picking a position on a policy and sticking to it.
It's funny because whenever I used to hear the president say the media is the enemy of the people, all of that, I got very uncomfortable as a journalist, as a reporter, having that background. I got very uncomfortable and I thought, God, you can't say stuff like that. But you're right. Every single day that passes, the more they do, I'm like, I understand why he said it now. I'm kind of in agreement with him to a certain extent.
Yeah. The American people feel under assault by the left-wing media, and the reality is, like I said, he doesn't even have to say it anymore. They just keep perpetuating that narrative themselves with the headlines they pick, the op-eds they publish, the tweets they make. They're doing it to themselves.
Wasn't there was something that I was reading, I thought I might have it on my cards, but I don't think I do, that there was, I think the New York Times wrote something about how it was the darkest year yet, 2019, for journalists under President Trump. I'm like,
Obama imprisoned more journalists than any president, all the other presidents combined.
I know. I'm like, there are no journalists imprisoned by President Trump.
Wow.
Meanwhile, around the world, maybe you should get some perspective. There are other countries where you do go to jail for speaking out against the president. Unbelievable. All right. Up next, we've got 2020 and impeachment. Don't change the channel. We'll be back. If my voice holds up.
You know what I'm looking forward to? I'm looking forward to being here in March.
Before we get back into it, we want to thank our sponsor, Candid, which I am personally using right now. Love them. So I used to have braces. I had headgear. I was like the biggest nerd ever. I did all this stuff, right, to straighten my teeth. And then I stopped wearing my retainers and my teeth shifted. And I was like, I spent all of that time and money wearing those things, and my teeth are crooked again. So I'm using Candid. You can too straighten your teeth for 65% less than braces. And also, it's not like braces where you got a bunch of metal in your mouth. Candid clear aligners are comfortable, removable, totally invisible. So I'm wearing them. I'm walking around. I'm talking with people. I'm meeting with people. They don't know that I'm also straightening my teeth at the same time. So if you are like me and maybe you've just let your teeth shift, you stopped wearing your retainers and you're unhappy with it now, you don't even have to go to a doctor's office. You don't have to sit in a waiting room. You can do everything from your home. Candid will send you they ship you all of the ingredients that you use to make your impressions. You send it off. They have a licensed orthodontist who makes you like this really cool 3D showing of what your teeth are going to look like when they get straightened, and they send you your aligners, and that's that. And it is so super easy, super simple. Right now, you can get $75 off by using promo code Y. Go get your teeth straightened. CandidCo.com/Y. Use code Y for $75 off. That is CandidCo.com/Y. Promo code Y for $75 off. By the way, it's only taken me 6 months. That's the average treatment time. 6 months for straighter teeth. CandidCo.com/Y. All right, let's talk about 2020 for a little bit. Fundraising numbers, final quarter fundraising. Some of the numbers have just been released, of course. They don't all release them, which oftentimes you're like, you didn't raise a lot of money and that's why you're not releasing your numbers yet. But Bernie Sanders pulled in a whopping $34 million. Pete Buttigieg behind him at $24.7 million. Now, the one that people are talking about that has not been released yet is good old Lizzie Warren. She has not released her numbers for Q3, but apparently the Warren campaign sent out a desperate fundraising email to supporters last week, claiming to have only raised $17 million in Q4 so far, and that would be like a 30% drop, which is kind of how she's dropped in the polls, so it would make a lot of sense. And then Joe Biden, we don't have it, the final number yet, but he likely has crossed into the $20 million fundraising mark. We can talk about all these people, but how are people still giving Joe Biden money?
I don't know how
That's
you
what
give
I
any
wanna
of those
know.
people any money.
Well, that's a great point.
It's crazy. And, what's left out there is that Trump raised $46 million during the same time period.
Yes.
So he's by far and away the biggest donor, and that goes completely unmentioned. But how
And he raised a good chunk of it, I think, in the first couple days during impeachment.
Yeah.
I read there was a lot of money given to him during impeachment.
I think the impeachment thing is actually helping him, and it's
I agree.
actually hurting these candidates. And while they're raising these millions of dollars, it will be interesting to see if the Senate does have an impeachment trial, they're going to be bound to it. You got the three senators, you got Warren, Sanders, and Klobuchar, who are going to have to be there and keep them off the campaign trail. So, that is one good thing about that, is that maybe the Democrats won't spread it out that much because they've got three senators to worry about.
Yeah.
But Buttigieg, I don't know who's donating to him either.
I don't either.
How does this mayor from South Bend, Indiana, come up with $25 million every quarter?
Didn't he pretty much get body slammed too in the last debate?
Yeah, he did.
That's what I
Dared
know.
to drink wine while at his fundraiser. He served wine. It was horrible.
No, but I mean, that's a great point. He hasn't had some huge moment where you go, oh man, Buttigieg, he is a rising star right now. He hasn't had that. So it is a great question. Who is donating to Pete Buttigieg? I know it's not, I mean, minorities don't like him.
No, they're definitely not black donors. You know that, or voters, unless they're from Kenya, because that's where he gets his pictures.
Right,
But,
yes, his stock photos.
He's got some fundraisers.
Look, I have black voters. See? Oh, no, it's a stock photo from Kenya.
Foreign interference with an election. I think the LGBTQIA, LMNOP individuals across the nation, it's a very wealthy network of individuals who has definitely decided to give him very early support and often support. Now, to his credit, he has also expanded that into a donor network, really, that has raised him tens of millions of dollars more than anybody would have thought that he would raise. And I think you also have a lot of moderate donors who kind of see him as the potential middle-of-the-road candidate if Biden peters out. And so they're kind of trying to, in a sense, buy an insurance policy, because the last thing they want is an actual socialist running. And so they're trying to figure that out.
I mean, Bernie just raised $34 million.
And to your point, I think what you're also seeing is that the masses, right? Because we know that the socialistic candidates do have a small dollar donor network, and that they are more and more getting comfortable with Bernie over Warren. And I think Warren made an early play at them, but she's definitely lost her momentum, and they're starting to coalesce more and more behind Bernie Sanders.
I mean, that's a great point. Are you? Surely Bernie doesn't get the nod, right?
I think it'd be very difficult for him to. Yeah. Look, we don't
I'm just
know
impressed
who's
he
gonna
raises
win.
this much money right after he has a heart attack.
I think a lot of it's
That's
going
my
to come
biggest
down to
thing. Is
Iowa.
what's going on
New
with his
Hampshire.
health? Why are people still giving him money because of that reason?
Well, I mean, he seems to be way more, with it than Joe Biden, who did not have a heart attack. I mean, you know what I mean? You saw them on a debate stage.
He's
You're
still
like,
holding his
how
own.
is the guy with a heart attack doing way better than Joe Biden, who has no idea where he
Quicker on
even
his feet.
is right now?
NRA did a good segment on Joe Biden's response to this whole shooting in Texas and just his thoughts on gun laws, and it was comical to listen to him talk about it. It's like, what are you saying? As he tries to keep his teeth in his mouth.
Part of me thinks that Joe doesn't actually believe what he's saying. He's trying to straddle that line of, I want to say things that keeps the left happy. I don't really believe any of this, which then means it's going to take him a long time to find the words he's looking to form the sentence that says something he doesn't even really believe, but he knows keeps enough people happy to try to win him the nomination.
Meanwhile, you got Bloomberg, who isn't raising a lot of money, but he's got a lot of his own.
Yeah.
And he's already spent $155 million in ads. That is unbelievable. In just over a month.
Unbelievable.
I mean, like a month and a week.
Yep.
$155 million? Wow.
I see his ads all over social media.
Oh, I do too.
All over YouTube.
And I see him on television. They're all over ESPN.
His ad guy is probably buying a small island in the Bahamas somewhere
Yeah.
No
with the
kidding.
percentage that he's taking.
Oh, yeah.
No kidding.
No kidding. By the way, speaking of 2020, I have some really sad news.
don't break
Julian Castro, he's out.
We lost him.
We lost him. We lost him.
Heartbreaking.
I mean, for probably like 5 people out there, they are very, very heartbroken today.
I was hoping that me and Julian could hang out down by the schoolyard, but I guess it's not going to happen now.
Actually, he's more available, just to let you know.
Is he? Oh,
You
right.
might be able to
I'm
now.
still
You
in-
have a better shot.
You're still in. You're still in. It is really interesting, though. You see all of these minorities, for as much as the left likes to say we can't have the white people, we can't
Right.
have the old people, all these
Right.
minorities keep trickling out because they're not getting support. I don't know what to make of that. It could be that maybe they don't
Bunch of
believe what they're
racists.
saying. Oh.
Yeah, a bunch of racists. That's what they'd be saying about Republicans,
It
right?
is. It is.
That's
Absolutely.
what Kamala Harris said.
Yeah.
Oh, and she's gone too.
She is gone because her own voters are racist.
Is Cory Booker gone? I can't
No.
remember.
Not
He's
yet.
hanging around.
Yeah,
He's
hanging
got
around.
to be the next one gone.
You would think.
I'll cross my fingers for that. All right, before we go, we just thought it was proper that we send off Julian Castro in our own way. Watch. Hey, before we go into overtime, which you guys can access at blazetv.com, want to remind those of you who have not yet subscribed, you're missing out on so much freaking content, you guys. We've got Pat Gray Unleashed. That takes place every morning way too early, so it's also available on demand if you're not up that early, 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central. We've got Steven Crowder. We've got Dave Rubin. We've got, of course, the man himself, Mr. Glenn Beck. We've got Eric Bowling. We've got so much content that you are
New
missing
show starting
out.
with Stu Bergier very
Yes,
soon.
Stu. I'm really excited for that one. That's going to be really good. But you got to go to blazetv.com. And you're going to miss out if you don't. So you can use promo code NEWS and you will save $10 when you use that promo code NEWS. Still to come in overtime, we've got impeachment, which we haven't gotten into. Rudy Giuliani prepared to testify about corruption of Democrats and Ukraine if they have a trial. Oh, I want this to happen,
Make it happen.
so bad. We'll get into it next, coming up in overtime.
It's going to be a great 2020.
I know.
Most entertaining